Good afternoon, everyone. I am CS Surabhi Punshi from ClearTax, a GST product expert. In this live session, I am going to talk about the issues related to the GSTR filing. As we know, many businesses face issue while GSTR-1 earlier this month. We have two more due dates in the January, GSTR-4 on 18th and GSTR-3B on 20th. So this session will help you understand the common issues that can come up during the filing and the resolutions for the same. First, we will look at the most prominent issues related to GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 that every business is asking us about. Let's talk about the GSTR 3B. So first of the issue the users usually say is in relation to the credit note. How to adjust this credit note, because in most of the cases the government, they don't allow us the negative figures. So whenever I am showing the 3.2 there, while I'm showing the state-wise detail, so they don't allow me to put the negative figure in front of that place of supply. So earlier the government has given the resolution that you can show the same thing in the next month, which means that you can adjust that credit note in the next month whenever you get the invoice in relation to the state in which you have the credit notes. Now the issue has been solved. Now the government is allowing the negative value. So in case you have the credit note in the month, let's say you have the credit notes in the month of December, then you can adjust the same in the same month, irrespective whether you have the invoice in that state or not. So this is a good thing now. Now we can adjust things and we can pay less taxes by adjusting the credit notes. Another important thing is, what is the late fees? What is the late fees for delay in the GSTR-1 filing, or maybe in the delay of the GSTR-3B filing? So one point is, let's say I haven't filed my 3B. If I haven't filed my 3B, then there is a fees of 25 rupees per act, which means it's total 50 rupees per day. So you have to pay rupees 50 per day as a late fees for not filing the 3B. Another thing is, what is the late fee if I haven't filed my GSTR-1? So as most of the users, they were not able to file GSTR-1, so they were asking what is the late fees for that. So for that, since there is no notification till now, so the same thing which was earlier written in the act, which is nothing but 100 rupees per act, which means 200 rupees per day. So you have to pay 200 rupees per day as a late fees for the GSTR-1. Though we are waiting for the waiver of this fees, so we are waiting for the notification if we get something. But yeah, till now it's 200 rupees per day. Most of the user also asked about the monthly and the quarterly return. So if I am a user, whether I can file my quarterly return. If yes, then when can I file the quarterly return and what all I have to do for that? So the government here, you have to file the quarterly return. The turnover you have to select on the PAN level basis. So it's not at the GST level, it's at the PAN level. So at the PAN level, you have to check whether your turnover is up to 1.5 crore or not. So if it is, then you can opt for the quarterly return. Yeah, but there is one thing here. So whenever you go to the government portal, so for every GSTN, you have to select the preference. So there you have to select whether you have to file the quarterly return or you have to file the monthly return. After selecting the preference, you can either file the quarterly or the monthly. Another issue is, so the user says, okay, I'm filing for the quarterly return. Now, what I have to do? Should I have to file the July month return or not? What about the next month? So here, you have to file the return for the month of July separately and for the month of August and September separately in the September month. So you have to select September month and put the detail for the month of August and the September by aggregating the figures and then file the return for the month of September. So whosoever has opted for the quarterly, they have to file the return for the month of September by putting the figures of the August month in the September month itself. And whosoever has opted for the monthly return, they have to file the monthly return as usual. That is, they have to file for the month of July separately, August separately, September separately, and obviously the next month also separately. One of the user, he's asking what is the late fees or the interest for non-filing of the GSTR 3B. which I have already informed. So if you have some amount in that, if you have some tax payable in that, then you have to file, then you have to pay rupees 50 per day. Otherwise, if it is a nil return, then it is 20 rupees per day. So another issues the user were facing was in relation to amendments. So they had a question. So let's say I filed something in the month of July, but later I come to know that I have filed the wrong figures, or maybe I have filed the wrong POS, or maybe there was a wrong GSTN. Then can I revise the return, or can I file any amendment for that? So here, yeah, so the government has not given any option to file the revised return. So you can file the revised GSTR-1 return, but yeah, you can do the amendment in the next month. So for example, you file the return for the month of July, and later you come to know that I have shown the wrong information. So in that case, you can do the amendment for the same in the month of August. So while you are filing the return for the month of August, then you can do the amendment. So there is no timeline for the month of for the filing amendment. So you can file the amendment anytime before filing your annual return, or the return for the month of September. So you can file the amendments. So another question is, the user usually asks, okay, I have given the wrong GSTN. What can I do? Can I file the amendment for that? So here you can't amend the GSTN number, but yeah, you have an option. What you have to do, you just file the amendment for making the tax amount as 0, and then add new entry in the next month. You can just change that particular values, but yeah, directly you can't amend the GST number. Other more issues are like, most of the user, they say that instead of writing the B2B, I have given it as a B2CS because I don't know that GST number at that time. So I just file my return. What can I do now? For this also, there is the same thing, because I told you earlier, you can't amend the GST number. So now you have a workaround against it. What you have to do is, you just have to show a new invoice in the month of August, when you in the month of August, showing the invoice date for the month of July itself. And also you have to do the amendment for the B2CS. So you will do the amendment for the B2CS by making the taxable value on the tax amount as a 0, and you will do the amendment in respect to the B2B, where you will simply add a new invoice. So it will not be an amendment, but it will be like adding a new invoice. By this way, the another question is, okay, whether my tax liability will be increased because now I'm adding a new invoice. So no, your tax liability will not be increased, because you have already paid the taxes while filing your 3B, and the tax amount was equivalent to the tax amount which you are liable to pay. So there will be no effect on your liability. You are just doing it the amendment. Another question is how to change the regular taxpayer to the composition. When you talk about the regular taxpayer to the composition, because you would have opted for the composition scheme. So if you have opted for the composition scheme on the government portal itself, you will be shown as a composition dealer. So on your portal, you will see only the GSTR-4 filing. You won't be seeing the GSTR-1 or maybe a 3B in your portal. Let's say if you switched, so the thing is, you were earlier a regular taxpayer, but then you switched to the composition because the government has given some timeline. Because pre-GST you are a normal dealer, and you were switched, you are again was a normal regular taxpayer, but you were liable to the composition and you opted for the composition. If you have opted for the composition, then you can do so. So the government portal will be updated, and you will see only the GSTR-4 with the effective date from where you get the registration. Another question from one of the members: if any mistake found in form 3B, shall I correct in the GSTR-1? Yes. So whenever you feel like you have given the wrong figure in your GSTR-3B, then you can correct the same thing in the GSTR-1. And when the government introduces your GSTR-3, then the net liability, you will see, okay, this is my net liability, which will be your corrected liability. Another question from Raj Himanshu is, GSTR-1 submit error aa raha hai. Okay, if you are receiving any error, so there could be, so for that I just want to know what error exactly you are receiving. Is it in relation to the upload, or is it something else? So if it is in relation to upload, then there are two options. So either you can also use our portal for submitting that return. So you can upload directly from our portal because we use as API to upload. Or the other issue, you can directly raise the issue to the government portal. So they have help desk. So you can directly, with a screenshot and writing your GSTR number, you can raise the issue to the government portal. Another question is GST paid on the insurance premium can be claimed for the tax rebate. So it depends which insurance premium. So do you have the insurance business, or you are just talking about the normal insurance premium paid by you as a normal company and you are not in the insurance business? So if you are not in the insurance business, then you can't claim the ITC on that, because as per section 17(5) you can't claim on it. And most of the user is asking about the revising GST-1. Can I revise GST-1? So as I earlier told you, you can't revise the GST-1, but you can file the amendment in the next month. Most of the user are asking about the GSTR-4. Can I file the GSTR-4 for the next quarter? Yeah, so the government has already opened their portal. Now you can file your GSTR-4. So GSTR-4 is as applicable for composition dealer. Now you can file your GSTR-4 for the next quarter, which is your October to December. So now you can file your GSTR-4 for the month of October to December before 18th. So as we know that the due date for filing your GSTR-4 is 18th. Another issue from one of the person is problem in filing 3B shows checksum liability validation error. So this checksum issue generally arises where the liability, whenever you file your GSTR 3B, you have not shown the liability correctly. Maybe you have written the IGST together. So in that case, you can do one thing. So if you have not submitted the return, so because this error comes only at the time of adjusting the tax liability. So whenever you are setting off the liability, at that time you get the error. So you can just reset the 3B filing and just look at the taxes which you have shown. So while shown, you can just look into the tables where you have shown the 3B. There you will be come to know that what was the exact issue, and then again submit the GSTR 3B. Most of the users are also asking about the e-way bill. So they were asking whether I have to submit the e-way bill, who all are required to submit this e-way bill, and what I have to do. So the government has already introduced concept for the e-way bill. So the supplier whose consignment value is more than 50,000 rupees, he has to generate the e-way bill. So if I'm a supplier, my consignment is more than 50,000, able to generate the e-way bill. If I am giving these goods to the transporter, then I will generate only the part A of the e-way bill, and the part B, which is the vehicle number, they just have to update the vehicle number rate. That will be updated by the transporter. Another thing is, let's say if I am a transporter and one consignment value is less than 50,000, but my total consignment in a truck is more than 50,000, whether I am liable to generate the e-way bill. So yes, again, the transporter here will be liable to generate the e-way bill if the total consignment value in a truck is more than 50,000. Another issue here is, do I have to generate the e-way bill even if I am supplying within the state? So here the government has introduced, so they have notified, yes, you have to generate the e-way bill even if you are transferring the goods from one state, within one state. But there they have given a provision. So they have given that till 1st July, you can continue with the state act. And afterwards, from 1st of July, you can just start with the national side. Then you have to generate the e-way bill even for the intrastate transactions. Another question from the person is, I am an authorized service center. Which are the returns I need to file? So since you are providing services and you are a service provider, then you have to file your GSTR 3B and GSTR 1. So you have to get registered as a regular taxpayer. So and then you can file your GSTR 3B and GSTR 1. So GSTR 3B will be filed on the monthly basis, and GSTR 1 And GSTR-1 depends upon it, so less than 1.5 crore or more than 1.5 crore. So depending upon the turnover, you have to file quarterly or a monthly return. Another question from Midrul is, my GST ID and password are not giving. Okay, so they are saying that I'm not getting my password and the ID from my CA. What can I do? So in this case, because in case you have registered your own mail ID or the phone number, then you can reset your password by going to the government portal. If you have not given your mail ID or the password, then you have to request your CA to get your ID and the password. One of the user asking, I have filed by mistake the nil return for the GSTR-4. Can I revise that return? No. So currently they have not given an option to revise your return. So you can't revise your GSTR-4 return. And okay, so other thing is like now when we talk about the filing of the return, so most of the users, they're saying that they are facing the problem while filing your GSTR-1. So what I can do, is there any easy way to upload my invoices? So easy way, so yeah, you can also use our portal, so ClearTax portal, so you can upload your all the invoices. So it is a simple process. So you just have to upload all the, you can just upload an Excel file, and then you have to directly click on a button which will upload all your invoices to the government portal. Then you can just submit it and your return is done. So there's an option to verify and other stuff also. Along with that, you can also file your GSTR 3B. So again, if you are getting the summary itself, then you can directly submit the summary from our portal. Or there's another option. If you are not getting the summary, you want to create a summary by using ClearTax, then you can import your sales and the purchase, and then we will summarize that in the form of 3B, and then you can submit that 3B directly. Also, because we need to adjust the amount and we want to know what is the tax amount, I don't know what is the challan amount, how can I pay that? So we will also calculate the challan along with the tax liability which need to be adjusted. You usually do on the government portal. So we will tell you the exact amount and you can just copy paste that data and can submit your return. One of the question is, I can't offset tax liability in GSTR 3B. Error is checksum validation failed error. This checksum validation, as I told you earlier also, this happens whenever there is a difference between the total amount in your ledgers and the total amount when you showed in the 3B. So here, because now the government has provided an option to reset your 3B, you just reset your 3B and then check your summary which you have provided, and then you can again submit the return and click on the offset tax liability. So you can also use the ClearTax portal. You can directly file your 3B from here so that this errors does not arise. Is there for late filing of GSTR-1? Yes. So as I told you earlier that there was a penalty for late filing of the GSTR-1. So if you have not filed your GSTR-1 till 10th of January, then there is a late filing of 200 rupees per day. Then you have to pay till the notification is not there. So if there is some notification afterward, yeah, it could be waived off. But till now, it is 200 rupees per day. Another other question from the user is whether this 3B is optional or mandatory. So 3B is mandatory. Even if you don't have any turnover, you don't have any tax liability, then also you have to file the nil return. So this 3B is mandatory for all the user except for the person who are under the composition scheme. So for the person who are covered under the composition scheme, they just have to file the GSTR-4. They are not required to file the 3B. But apart from that, everyone has to file the 3B. Another question from one of the person is, I have raised debit note at the time of posting the purchase entry, say in the month of August, but the supplier not aware and the supplier filed full tax in the GSTR-1. So if there was a credit note from the supplier side, because under GST the supplier is able to file the credit note, so it's not like you have to file the debit note. So if the supplier has issued the credit note and he has not shown in his GSTR-1 return, then he has an option, either he filed in the next month, or you have an option, because right now the government has already posted on your GSTR-2, but there was an option, if you are filing your GSTR-2, then you can show that note while filing your GSTR-2, which will be automatically reflected in the supplier GSTR-1A, and there he can accept that note. For now, if it was for the month of July, because for the July the GSTR-2 was there, then you can do this thing. But for the rest of the month, you can either ask the supplier that he can show the credit note in his return in the next month, or other option, use your ITC. One of the question from the user is, I have filed 3B for the month of November on the last date, but my output was not adjusted with input tax credit. What can I do? So if you have filed, so here I have to ask whether you have just submitted the return or you have also filed the return. So in case you have just submitted the return, then you can revert the 3B and then adjust the ITC, and then also mention the ITC over there and then file your return. But if you already filed the return, then there is no option to revise the 3B. Then you can adjust that amount for next month. Another question from the user is, what is the liability of not filing the e-way bill? So when we talk about not filing e-way bill, so here the transporter, whenever he is taking the goods without the e-way bill, authority seizes the goods. So he has the option here to seize the goods. So he will just seize the goods, and then there is a 100% penalty. Obviously, he is going to pay all the goods here. So that is the only loss you have. Apart from that, there could be prosecutment and other things. Another question is, I filed my trans 1 last filing date its use. Is advice me what we do to save balance and trans extended. Till now, there is no notification for the extension of the trans, but yeah, we are looking at the government is going to extend for the trans 1. So we are assuming that they will extend the date for filing your trans 1. Lot of the users are asking about the penalties. So they're asking the penalties for not filing the GSTR 3B or the GSTR 1. So as I earlier told you, so there is a penalty of rupees 50 per day if you file 3B time. There is a penalty of rupees 200 per day if you don't file your GSTR 1 on time. For the person who has to file a nil return for 3B, for them the penalty is rupees 20 per day. Another question from the user is, how to file a nil return? For the nil return, you can directly go to the government portal, and there you can just there is an option to submit the nil return. So whenever you open your 3B, so they ask whether you want to file the nil return. Here you just have to click on yes, and you can just file the nil return. So it's an easy process where you can directly go to the government portal and submit the nil return. Another question from one of the users is, I have paid integrated tax instead of HGST in making the payment. How can I get the refund of the amount paid, and what is the process? So if you have wrongly paid the integrated tax instead of HGST or CGST, then you can again pay the HGST and you can claim the refund by going to the services under the gst.gov.in. So you just have to log into gst.gov.in, and under the services, you just have to click on refund. There's an option to get the refund for that, and you just file the refund, add your bank account detail, and you will be receiving the refund for the amount which was there in your electronic cash ledger. Another question is how to cancel your GST registration. So for cancelling a GST registration, again you have to visit to the government portal. Under services, there is an option to cancel your GST registration also. So if you are not liable for registration but you will wrongly get registered under GST, then you can cancel your registration by logging to gst.gov.in, and there under services there is an option to cancel your registration. Another question from the user is about the GSTR-4. That they were filing the GSTR-4, there was an error, checksum validity error, which was prevailing from last 2 days, and now they just want to file GSTR. So as we know, the government already updated their Excel utility. You can file your GSTR from there. This you can use your ClearTax. So by using ClearTax, there is a direct option to upload your GSTR-4 data to the government. So you can use ClearTax and upload all data. So there won't be any error, like a checksum error. You can directly upload data from here, and then you visit to the government portal and submit your return. Another question is sale data of 3B and GSTR-1 can be written. I have taken sale of October in September 3B and filed GSTR-1 correctly. So if you have filed your GSTR-1 correctly, it's good. So this can be revised because the government has given this option. So whenever there is a difference between GSTR-3B and GSTR-1, this can be updated. So whenever the government option 3, all the adjustment of liabilities and the input will be done. How to rectify our error in the submission? Our total invoice are more than 4,000. So if your invoices are more than 4,000, so because the government, they don't allow if your invoices are more than 500 in the government portal. So here again you have a two option. Either you can upload the GST file from government and upload on the ClearTax portal, and you can look into every invoice which is present over there, and then again upload the invoices after connecting it to the government. You can use the government offline utility. You can download the JSON file and connect in the government offline utility and upload the JSON file again. So I will suggest you use the ClearTax because here you will be able to JSON, or whenever you want to change any data, you can change from here itself and upload, and you can track whatever is changed. So if you want to keep the track on whatever you are changing on the GST-1 filing, then you can use ClearTax portal and you can upload the transactions. Another is I have made one GSTR-3B wrongly. I filed. How can I change file 3B? So there is no option for changing the GSTR if you have already filed the 3B, because in case you just submitted, there was an option to revert. But if you have already filed your GSTR-3B, there is no option to revise that. So if you want to make any change, this can be done through GSTR-1. So you file GSTR-1, which can be done, or you can adjust the tax liability by showing the correct thing in the next 3B. Another question is, being GST website not in a position to receive a return, is there any representation? Yeah, so there is a representation for extending this GSTR-1, but till now there is no notification. But we are assuming the government will waive the liability. So the government is going to waive the liability for not filing the GSTR-1 on time. One of the question in GSTR offline tool is self-allowed by all error in submission. Okay, so here again I will suggest is better you use ClearTax. You upload the government and utility directly on the ClearTax portal, and you will be come to know that what is the exact error, and you can obviously you can check that error on the R portal itself and submit your return. Another question is why GSTR 3B not filed yet due to showing as previous tax period liability yet to be paid. So this generally happens when there was a delay in submitting and filing. So if you, let's say, submitted the return on 21st and filed the return on let's say 25th, so whenever there was a delay in submitting and filing, then the government, they calculate the difference of the interest in this particular period and show that amount while filing the next month. So now I show you the liability from the previous month. So you just have to pay that liability and then can adjust it through the cash ledger. Another question is, can't file 3 months submitted but not filed. Transfer time over, first we get the in this. So some user specific. So here what you have to do, you just have to raise the ticket to the government portal, to the help desk. So with a screenshot, you can just raise the ticket and call them on that number by telling the ticket ID, so that you can get resolution for the same. Another question is, again, then our total value is increasing. How to solve? So I will first you delete all the data from the government portal. So this can be done also through our ClearTax portal. So you can just upload a JSON over here and delete the entire data from the government portal, and then upload the total transactions again, so that your total value does not get doubled. Another question is, can we record the number of is included in the document issue? Yeah. So you have to show under the document summary, you have to show the number of invoices which you have issued during the month. So if you have issued till 1 to 100, then you have to show, okay, your series starts with 1 till 100 you have issued, and then you have to show the total number of the invoices which will be 100. In case there was some cancellation of the invoice, then you have to of the invoice which were cancelled during the year. So this is filing GSTR-1. So hopefully all the queries are done. In case you also have further queries, then you can raise the ticket to GST support. So we will also mail you this, we will also tell you about this mail ID. So you can directly mail us the queries and we can solve this through a mail. Thank you. Thank you very much.